Yo guys, Visionist here bringing you the best landing areas in Warzone Verdansk as of right now following the latest update part 3, which will identify both the landing areas from the start of the game, but also as a regain spot for later in the game in case your initial start doesn't go quite to plan. So on that note, let's get right into it. So first things first, you'll need to consider a couple of key elements when you're choosing your initial landing spot, whether you're aiming for a high kill game and you're prepared for a chaotic start. Considering the rotation and location of the zone from the start of the game is key, and understanding which spots are typically safest to land and how to read the map are also key for regaining later in the game in case your initial start doesn't quite go to plan and you are also successful in your gulag. So notes to consider when landing in certain areas are things like, are you going for a high kill game? The rotation of the zone, the landing area itself, understanding where the zone is from the start and where it's potentially going to end, and just reading the map. Safe spots to land around the map in terms of how you rotate, the way the plane is going into the map, i.e. the plane route, and also when you time your jump, i.e. are you going to jump at the start of the plane or are you going to jump at the end of the plane, which typically means different or more players in certain areas, and also just generally reading the map and the zones itself, which typically comes down to both experience but also utilizing things like contracts. Now, as I've mentioned, there's various factors which will need to be considered when you're planning on your landing spot. So what I'll do is summarize all of the best landing areas in the entire map from my own experience, and then break down the factors such as what to expect, when you should go there, why you should and why you shouldn't, and then how to rotate through the map for both safety reasons but also, more importantly, higher kill games. And with this list, I will name a mixture of named areas, aka the main areas, and then of course a mixture of unnamed or nickname areas, which I'll show on the map, and screenshots of each individual area to help clarify these locations. Now, when making this video, I did make a conscious effort to divide these areas in this list to provide safe spots, hot spots, money or loot spots, etc., to cater to all different play styles of players, in case you guys are not after a certain spot, or in case you guys just weren't aware of the bigger picture, and particularly which areas are hot spots or which areas are safe spots, and so on. So first on this list is of course Verdansk's most notorious landmark, the stadium. Now, this is great for the eastern side rotation, a safe spot for the most part, map dependent of course, and here you are guaranteed a loadout due to the amount of chests and loot that you will find. It's typically safe from most areas and a low-key area from where basically teams don't typically land. However, the only things you'll need to consider is that it's very open from things like downtown snipers and also TV station players that are rotating in and around. And for the most part, if you guys aren't already aware, TV station is a hotspot, so you're more likely to find players with higher skill, typically for the most part, coming out this area. So just bear that in mind if you're landing here for safety reasons. Now, the second spot on the list is port. This is typically another safe area, great for regaining, but also a great landing spot if the zone is likely to end in and around downtown, farmland, or the prison area, as it's a more low-key area, but of course it's more quiet with plenty of loot and has 2 to 3 shops, which is really, really useful, especially if other teams do land in certain areas of the port. And for the most part, again, this is one of the best regain spots in my opinion. Of course, as I mentioned, zone dependent, but if it is going to end somewhere in the east or the southern side of the map, this is a great spot for you guys to get back into the game and try your luck, get a contract, and then try and get yourself back into the game to win you a game. Now, for the third spot on this list, this is the train station. Now, strangely, this is actually a really, really hot spot with a great central rotation for the southern side of the map, whilst also being really good for a regain spot later in the game as well, in case, just like port, also it's got plenty of loot in and around the area in itself. Typically, multiple contracts spawn here closely, and also with a shop right in the center of this area, making this a really good spot for getting an early loadout to feed those high kill games, or making it a great regain spot for when it quiets down later in the game. Now, as for the fourth spot on this list, this is park. This is a very quiet and safe landing area for the most part for the lowest, sort of slower paced players and less experienced players who enjoy sniping and the long range gunfights due to the amount of openness it has, whilst also having various areas to rotate into, as it sits on the outskirts of like 3 to 4 different areas and provides a good rotation for each of these areas individually. Now, if you carry out recons and you know the zone will end here later in the game, setting up here early increases your chance at winning games massively, as it's not the easiest place to rotate into due to the openness and of course the lack of cover. But for the most part, this is a lesser skilled and a good regain spot, for my opinion, that I have found from my own experience. Now, as for the fifth spot on this list for the sort of named areas is the twins. These are the 2 large buildings in the sort of central eastern side of the map, 2 identical tall buildings to the southeast of Superstore and the north side of the train station. A great area with a shop to get an early loadout, and if you win the opening team fights, which for the most part this is a really hot spot, you will get a good spot to both rotate around the game, but also you can actually use this as a regain spot later in the game if you're trying to feed those high kill games and you're trying to stay in the mix due to the sort of centralized area it is in. However, like I said, this is typically a hot spot and remains unsafe throughout the entire game from my own experience due to its centralized area, and whenever I've tried landing here to get a loadout on that shop that sits in between the 2 buildings, this has typically become quite a problem and actually really risky, so you almost have to throw a smoke down, make sure you get the loadout and then put it somewhere safe and then really act quite fast, fast. So if you're someone that likes to play it safe and sort of sensibly, this is not typically an area I would suggest rotating into or starting off initially for your initial starting area. As for the 6th spot on this list and the sort of first unnamed area, this is basically the Superstore or Burger Town apartments, which is a really good spot for both rotation due to the sort of centralized area. Similar to the Twins that we just went over, it's typically quite a hot area in itself, because it can literally rotate you into both Superstore, train station, airport, and of course Boneyard, and it kind of gives you that entire sort of variety of whether the sort of high kill game is going to the west, or whether it's going east, or whether it's sort of staying around that central area itself. Now overall, you'll massively benefit from sitting up on these style of buildings and just sniping, because you'll get a lot of open areas and lots of viewpoints where you can see and rotate into, and also just shoot and bring down fire onto teams that are sort of rotating in and around that area. But the downside is that there's no shop right next to this building, and therefore you're going to struggle getting your loadout, so you have to either utilize the Superstore car park shop or the twin shop that is across the road. So therefore it becomes quite risky when you land here and then don't have a guaranteed shop right next to you, unless you're super quick, get all the loot, and then get over to Superstore and then rotate into Superstore to sort of third party the rest of the winning teams that sort of come out top on Superstore itself. And that's kind of the sort of suggestion if you were to land in this area. But if you're looking for a high kill game, this is a good spot and more of a lower key spot. Although teams look here, they don't typically expect teams to sort of land here and get a loadout really quickly. And then sort of continuing on that sort of central area landing spot and that sort of maintaining the high kill game and being in the sort of Superstore area and the vicinity is the electronics area, almost basically the airport car park, which is basically the north side of Superstore. There's all of these tall sort of apartment style buildings, the hangars on the airfield, and then of course the electronic style building that typically has a car and has always been a sort of key area for both rotating into the airport area but also maintaining high kill games. For the most part, that is what I found a very good spot for when you're trying to go for high kill games, either landing here and then again third party in the likes of Superstore, or sort of rotating east towards the hangars, or rotating up to the sort of airport car park area and either setting up in the airport tower if that's your style, or just simply staying with the high kill momentum and just pushing wherever the action is or wherever you can see on your radar due to UAVs, or just focus on doing contracts. But this for the most part is a good area with the amount of buildings. You can get so much loot, get an early loadout, and then start rotating really quickly, especially if you're a high kill player and want to sort of feed those high kill games and beat your own records. This is a great spot for you. Now as for the 8th spot on the list and the third unnamed area, this is the TV station village, the residential area of the TV, which is effectively on the right hand side on the eastern side of the map. Now this spot is another real hot spot for the most part. In my own experience, this is a really chaotic area to land in. If you're looking for a high kill game, this is perfect for you, because in my own experience, if you guys come out of here alive, you're going to fight sort of anywhere between 3 to 5 teams, and you're going to come out with at least sort of 5 to 10 kills as an entire team before you even have your loadout or before the first zone even starts closing in. And this is exactly what you're after if you're looking for high kill games. And then you can either rotate up into the TV station area itself, or rotate west across the map towards the hangars and the Superstore central area, or you can just rotate south into sort of the downtown or stadium areas itself. It just depends, of course, on zone and which contracts you're doing and what your objective for that game is. Now, as for the fourth unnamed area and the 9th spot on this list, this is the warehouses right next to the Boneyard, the industrial area right next to the Boneyard area itself in the sort of southwestern area. This is a really good spot for both regaining later in the game, but also initially starting, because it's a more of a low-key area to land in next to Boneyard, where you can get a load of loot and then either pick whether you want to rotate east and go sort of centrally, or if you want to go west out to Boneyard and sort of third party those teams and utilize those shops. Because for the downside of this area, it doesn't have a shop right next to it, and you either have to go up into sort of storage town, which is a bit risky, or you have to go west into Boneyard, which again is risky. But if you do it smart and you work as a unit, you can collectively get both a lot of kills, an early loadout, and of course third party teams when they're sort of not expecting you to sort of turn up with your entire team. Now as for the sort of final spot on this list, the 5th unnamed area is the Dam Village. Now this is basically a safe and regain spot in my opinion. It gives you a lot of high ground, has a shop right next to it, and for the most part there aren't really many teams here. You'll tend to find teams rotating into this area later on, but for an initial starting area or a regain spot, this is a great safe spot. But for the most part there aren't that many buildings clustered together, so you will need to be sort of efficient in your sort of looting methods. You have to split up a little bit, which is obviously the riskier part, where you have to sort of send teammates left and right and about 100 to 200 meters away in order to try and get a loadout quickly. Or unless you just sort of want to take it at your own pace and play slower, this still will work for you guys. But to be more efficient and to get yourself back into the game a lot quicker, you'll need to just bear that in mind with the consideration, because there are not that many buildings around, and the shop is right down the bottom in towards the dam area, which is obviously off the massive cliff, off the actual village area itself. It has many other nicknames, but we just sort of call it the Dam Village because there is no other real name for it. It's just a bunch of buildings and a shop right next to the dam itself. So whatever you guys call it, it's this sort of area on the map, and it's really effective for both regaining, as I mentioned, and also for a safe spot. Now, just the final thing I wanted to go over just before I wrap up the video is the contracts. As I have in the other episodes, I just wanted to discuss it for any of you guys that weren't aware what these contracts purposes are actually for and what I would recommend sort of for high kill games and also safe spots. Now, starting with the scavenger, this is probably the simplest contract to do. Provides plenty of loot, a satchel for both helping you with your backpack situation and armor plates, and then of course leads you into chaos because the scavengers typically take you towards the closest team. So just bear that in mind. And for the most part, you do get a decent amount of money, but it's pretty simple to do, and your entire team can just help you do that. Now, the second contract, and probably my most go-to, which is a risky contract, but with a squad, the most wanted is actually probably the easiest and best ways to make money, because every time you open a crate with a most wanted, you will bring down the timer by 10 seconds, and you all get a bunch of money. And of course, from the crates themselves, you can get a loadout really, really fast if you grab a most wanted right at the start of the game. But of course, you just have to recognize that one of your teammates is marked, and you need to sort of protect them and stay close to them, because teams will typically try and eliminate you really, really early, especially if you land in a hotspot itself. So just bear that in mind. But for the most part, this is a real low-key contract to get if you're trying to look for money and trying to do it as fast as possible, because often or not, it's actually better and quicker than actually getting the scavengers. So for my opinion, and you're trying to go for high kill games, this is my advice for a contract to help you guys. Now, another contract for the third one is the recons. This is great for early rotation, playing smart and trying to play sensibly and get you guys a win, to sort of give you the heads up on where the zone is going to end, so you can rotate early if you guys can't already sort of envisage where the actual zone will likely to end, and you're not looking for a high kill game. This is the perfect contract for you guys. And as for the fourth and final one I want to go over is the bounties. Now, this is obviously perfect for high kill games, as you want to start to focus on bounties once you basically get your loadouts, and if you're ready to start pushing out teams. Of course, you can grab one really early, and if you're lucky who it hits, you can get rewarded for both killing a team that's real close to you, and then of course getting money. Now, this is good and easy ways to both get kills and money, because it literally rewards you for doing so. So this is pretty much the best method for when you're pushing those high kill games, and the same sort of applies for the big game bounties as well. Now, in summary, depending on zone, what type of game you're after, or what loadout you're using, but also a more low-key factor to consider is who you are playing with, whether you're in a solos or a quads, but also the skill level of your teammates if you are playing in a squad. Whether you're up for the challenge and want to beat your personal best high kill games, then basically land in the hotspots in this list and go for contracts such as scavs, most wanted, and bounties. If not, focus on recons, land in safe areas, and rotate sensibly throughout the entire game to sort of set you up deep into the zone in preparation for the end game, and to inevitably get you that win. But anyways, guys, there you have it. That's the full video on the best landing areas on the map, part 3. But also, I will be making a few more episodes in the upcoming weeks for the more discreet and low-key areas, so look out for them. Essentially places with names, but I've also made best loadout videos on the channel to be using right now, which are linked in the description below. So go check them out on the channel. If you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any tips or tricks or preferred landing areas, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll get right back to you. I'm Vision SGN. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.